We have a special show today that is a live shot of the number 13 athlete in the state of Illinois, Charles Bass, who is ready to announce his commitment later on in the show. He will decide between Arkansas, the University of Illinois, Kansas State, and the University of Missouri. So stick around to find out where he will be playing ball for the next few years. Welcome to Unfiltered. I am your host, Carl Reed.
And I'm Smoke Dixon.
I hope you guys are ready to get unfiltered. Smoke, tell them why they need to tune in.
Well, Carl, you said tell them, so I'm going to tell them. This is the place that you come to get the unfiltered truth about what's going on in today's college ecosystem, football ecosystem, from the lenses of two former players, two former coaches, and your resident GM. See, Reed, let's get unfiltered.
In today's episode, we will break down year one conference title contenders and pretenders. Which college teams have the best and the least chance to make a run at their new conference title? East St. Louis Flyer Charles Bass will commit on the show. Which program will it be? Stick around to find out where this recruit will be playing college football. After the commit, stay tuned for the smoke screen, where Smoke Dixon will break down Charles Bass as a football player and tell you why he is a good fit for the college game. Flag on the play. The NCAA lifts the ban on marijuana usage. Smoke. We will discuss that it's a good ruling, but with no guidelines, it could cause potential problems down the road. Guys, stay off the weed.
Carl Reed and Smoke Dixon, I'm spitting facts. Now let's hit some heated topics. Yes, it's time for group chat.
Smoke, the group chat was on fire on the 4th of July as the historic conference realignment that we agreed to a year ago became official. And the first topic we will get into is college football teams with the best or the least chance to win their conference. Now, Smoke, I know you like to move the goalpost at times, so I have to give you some criteria to keep you on task. We're going to go transfer portal rankings, strength of schedule, and personnel. All right. So let's start with the ACC year one conference title contenders and pretenders. Which program do you like in the ACC that has a shot?
Well, I'm glad you said that, Carl, and gave me all the parameters to go buck wild like I usually do. So we're going to start off at the bottom of the map in the ACC. We're going to go to University of Miami. Let's do it with the U. Carl, now when you look at it, you went 7-6 last year, 3-5 in the conference. But listen, this is their year. And you and I both know when you talk about winning, the number one thing that you have to do is start off with recruiting. Now, they've done a heck of a job recruiting high school. But when you want to make that impact, Carl, you got to go to the transfer portal. And I thought they knocked it out of the park in terms of the transfer portal with the quarterback. And you know it starts with the quarterback. But they went to the utilizer of getting a good running back. Go ahead and slow those games down as you get further on down the year. Or if things aren't rolling, or if you need to go ahead and help Mario out and put that game out of hand and run the clock out. So when all that's tied up, Carl, we got to go to the strength of schedule. And when you look at the strength of schedule, their strength of schedule lines up perfectly for them. Right? Carl, they're ranked the 53rd schedule. They're starting out those first 4 games. They should knock them out of the park. Then you got to go to West. Then you got to go to Virginia Tech. That's a Friday game, Carl. That's a Friday game that might get you in a little bit of trouble. But I think Mario and that crew got it handled. Now they get that bye. And as you look at it on 10/26, Florida State. But guess what? That's at home. It's home cooking for you to go ahead and unleash the beast towards the end of the season and get that thing right. So if you look at it, they should be undefeated going into that game. Knock out the rest, and Carl, you got the ACC in a bunk. Now let's touch on the personnel factor. They said they needed help on defense. What did they? They went in the portal, got depth up front, meaning they can roll 10 to 12 guys at you and get it done. They also kept their receivers at home. So you give your quarterback somebody to throw the ball to. Running back, we already know what handled it. They didn't lose that much. So you got coaching, personnel, recruiting all tied up in one. A little stumble block at Florida State, get over that Friday night light with Virginia Tech, and you'll be in the playoff. and you'll be getting ready to run. Now, I just went to the best odds. Now I want you to go to the least odds right now, Carl, in the ACC.
Smoke, it hurts me to say this because I was so high on this team a year ago. And the year before, I predicted them to win 10. But I think we're going to have a small step back this year from the Florida State Seminoles, who competed this year. They went 13 and 0 in regular season, 9 and 0 in the conference. We know they lost a bowl game in a major way to Georgia after a bunch of guys opted out. I know you don't give them any credit for that, but Smoke, they did have their whole team opt out before the game. Recruiting, they have normally been at the top of the food chain, but from a high school standpoint this year, they were only ranked 12 in the nation in our 24/7 rankings in high school recruiting and number 7 in the transfer portal. So I didn't see the impact guys like I saw when they got a Jared Verse or a Keon Coleman coming over in the transfer portal that was going to make a major difference. I did like the pickup at quarterback with DJU coming in from Oregon State, but I don't know if that's going to be enough to get them over the hump. Strength of schedule. When you look at their schedule, Smoke, they got a couple of tough ones that they got to deal with. They have to go to Miami, who you just said you think is the favorite with the addition of Cam Ward. I think that's going to be an extremely tough game. At Notre Dame, this is a year that Marcus Freeman has to deliver, so I think that's going to be a tough game down in South Bend at Indiana. At SMU, who's now an ACC member, I think that's going to be tough. In Clemson, they have them at home, but Clemson is always a tough out. Now let's talk about personnel, Smoke. We talked about personnel. You lose the quarterback. We saw what that did to the team. You did replace him with DJU, but you lost a ton of NFL players. You lost Jared Verse. You lost Kalen DeLoach, who was the heart and soul of your defense at linebacker. You lost Keon Coleman, that's already becoming a fan favorite with the Buffalo Bills. Smoke, I just think that Florida State lost too much, and I don't see all the replacements for them to compete for a national championship. I think they're going to still have a quality football team. They're going to win some games, but when you're talking about national titles, I don't think Florida State's going to be in the picture, Smoke.
See, Reese, so
Now,
you're not allowed back to go to Tallahassee, are you? Are they putting you out of
listen,
Tallahassee?
they're not going to put me out yet. Those are still my guys. I will get a text today and a call, though. I'm sure somebody will hit me up today. Smoke, let's go to the Big Ten, right? Now, we've talked a lot about the Big Ten on our show, specifically as it relates to Ohio State and Michigan. But my favorite to win the Big Ten this year, I'm going to go with the University of Oregon. The University of Oregon moving to the Big Ten. Last year they were 12 and 2, coming out of the Pac-12, 8 and 1 in conference. But let's look at this, Smoke. We just saw a quote that Phil Knight says all money on the table. All money in the middle of the table, Smoke, from an NIL standpoint. When you look at recruiting, they're number 3 in the country. High school recruiting this year. 22 4-star commits, and we know that the 4-star area in recruit is the sweet spot for guys that typically make it to the National Football League. Then you top it off, number 3 in the transfer portal rankings. When I look at the strength of schedule, all right, when I look at the schedule for Oregon, they got the big one with Ohio State, but they get Ohio State at home. All right. They got to go to Michigan, who lost a lot off the championship team. And I don't think that you can ever sleep on a road game at the end of the season against Wisconsin, but they got to circle that October 12th date against Ohio State because that's the one they have to have. But when you have Phil Knight saying all money in, Smoke, when you have recruited the way that Dan Lanning has recruited, you got to take Oregon as a serious contender. Added Dylan Gabriel at the quarterback position, transferring from the University of Oklahoma to replace Bo Nix. Dante Moore is also in the fold there. Evan Stewart at wide receiver, and a plethora of linemen. They got Derek Harmon over from Michigan State. So the personnel is solid across both interior lines. They are loaded at every single position. And when you have Phil Knight in the background saying he's all in with all his chips on the table, Smoke, it's time. It's time. So I'm going to look at you, Smoke, and ask you, who's the least? in the Big Ten? Who's not going to win?
Well, we went crybaby last year, and they ended up winning it. I've been on record to say A&R ain't my type of part. Did that in high school. So the least odds to win it for me, Michigan, national champion, 15-0. They didn't lose a game last year. In recruiting, they always do what Michigan does. They recruit what they need for them, finishing up 16th overall in the high school, 57th in the transfer portal. Recruiting good players, but not day one impact players. They got Jaysean Barham in the transfer portal. He's going to come in and play that Mike linebacker position for him. But that ain't enough to win in that Big Ten. That Big Ten is a machine of you going through this. So let's go straight to the strength of schedule. And you look at it, you just dice it up and say, okay, where are you guys at right now? Off the top, second game, you got to Texas. That's going to be a problem and a half. Tough game to beat. It's at home, but that ain't going to be no home cooking because you got quarterback, O-line, receivers. Texas is one of my favorites overall. Then you got Oregon in November. Turkey ain't going to taste that good. And at the end of it, at the Horseshoe, they're loaded talent-wise on offense and defense. And you know what, Carl? They got that get back. They want their get back and they want their lick. So you know it's much more. So then we go straight to the personnel. They lost a lot. You lost your head coach. You lost your defensive coordinator. You lost your head personnel guy. And that's just coaches. You got 11 drafted to the NFL. That means you're losing 50% of your team. So what you won with last year was depth, senior ran team, and that team was getting ready to make that run. This year, not so much. They're going to fall back a little bit. Solid team, but they're not in contention for me to go ahead and win that Big Ten. Too tough. Now, I just captured the Big Ten the least. Now, we got to go to the Big 12. Carl, listen now. Everybody at home, just sit back and wait. I know you're going to surprise us with something. Best odds to win the Big 12. Give it to me. I'm praying. Come on. Give me something good.
Go West, young man. Go West. Go to my guy in Boulder, Colorado, the University of Colorado. You know that's who I'm going with, Smoke, to make their run in the Big 12 this year. Let's first talk about the recruiting piece. You can't look at Colorado from a standpoint like you look at regular teams when it comes to high school recruiting because they really get after it in the transfer portal. Last year they were 4-8, 1-8 in conference, but they have completely retooled their roster. Number 8 in our transfer portal rankings. So when I look at what they have been able to do, now we know about Shedeur Sanders, we know about Travis Hunter, we know about Shiloh, but we're not going to spend this segment talking about those guys because we know what they're going to do and what they come to do. When you look at the schedule, though, for Colorado, they have to go to Nebraska, right? Now, football guys are going to say North Dakota State. You got to watch out for them, and you always do. But there's been a lot of changes with the transfer portal. This is not the same North Dakota State program that has been in the past. They do have a program, though, that you have to respect. But going to Nebraska, that rivalry has been renewed. It's always a lot of trash talking around it. So that'll be a tough one. They do have to go into Kansas State. They get Kansas State at home. They got Oklahoma State on the road, but they got Utah at home. I think the toughest game on the schedule that they have, honestly, that people are overlooking is probably going to be going to Lawrence, Kansas, and what Coach Leipold has built there down in Jayhawk country. Now, when I talk about the personnel for Colorado Smoke and we talk about recruiting, they went out and they got Jordan Seaton, right backyard Smoke, who was the number one offensive lineman in the nation, and he's going to step in and be an immediate starter. Also, across the offensive line, they gave up 55 sacks a year ago. Everybody wanted to know, were you going to address the trenches? They got transfers. Khalil Benson. They got Justin Meyer. They got Tyler Johnson that are all doing excellent in offseason workouts and through the spring. The offensive line is retooled. EA Sports just told you Shedeur Sanders has the highest rating on the new college football game. the University of Colorado smoke this year. They're gonna make some noise. And when I talked to Prime the other day, he say, "Just wait. You know we coming, Reed."
All right, Reed. You just gave us a whole eulogy. You gave us a sermon on how great. I'm gonna leave it alone. I'm gonna go to the least favorite odds to win Big 12. TCU 5-7 last year, 3-6 in the conference. Let's just touch on the recruiting piece. We understand that this is a developmental university. Coach Dykes has always done a good job of capturing the low-tier guys, develop them, and get in the about 4 or 5 year span, you'll see them go ahead and push their head up and they get into that conversation of the conference championship. Not so this year. In terms of transfer portal, 24th, high school, 37th ranked. And let's just go straight to the strength of schedule and just look at it. When you're a team like that and you started out going out west to Stanford, that's going to be, for me, the challenging one because you got to travel, but I think they'll get past that. UCF, you and I also know that is a beast to go down there and mess around with Gus Malzahn and that team in that offense. They got two-headed running backs back there that's going to run the ball down your throat, and you better be ready to play ball. At SMU, that's going to be a problem. Kansas, you just touched on it. You don't want to go in Jayhawk country talking that trash. You're going to get your head back and going back home. I know they lost their offensive coordinator, but they're going to run the same field. They're going to bring that quarterback back, and it's going to be a problem. Now you go to 10-19, and you got Utah. Utah's going to give you a problem. Coach Whittingham's always been there in terms of making it so tough on you when you get in there that when you walk out of there, it's almost like you lost 2 games. Now let's just touch on the personnel side of everything. In the transfer portal, they got Ken Seals from Vanderbilt. Solid backup, but I don't think that's a guy that's going to go in there and do much for you. They went down to Bama, got that offensive lineman, Brockemeyer. He's a guy that's going to need time on task to develop. So, long story short, Horned Frogs don't beat me up. Love you to death, but I love you to leave. No chance for me of you winning that competition. Now, see, Reed, I'm going to go ahead and go back home and keep it in that SEC. Now, unlike you, I'm not going to be at home. I'm not going to roll with the time. I'm going to go hotty toddy. Go to Oxford. I'm going to go on the Grove right now. Last year, they finished at 11-2. 6-2 in that conference. Lane, this is the year that you got to get off of it or give me some action with it. 17th in high school recruiting. Number 1. One more time, please read. Number 1 in the transfer portal. You got Walter Nolan, Prince U, Trey Amos. Underrated corner, but he can go. You got the edge rusher from Florida. You got my guy inside 3 technique with Walter. It's going to be a problem for anybody to go in there and want to play and throw the ball or run the ball down there. Now you look at the strength of schedule. Lined up perfectly for him. Ranked 22nd. But here goes your problems you're going to have. For the first half of that schedule, all the way to South Carolina, a little bit of hiccup, but they should get through it. At LSU is always going to be a problem. We talked about it, one of the tougher places to play in the SEC. Oklahoma, they get them. At Arkansas, they'll be fine there. Now you got to get to Georgia. That's when the game gets tight. That's when we'll find out exactly what they have cooking in terms of being talented as a team. At Florida, I think coming off of that Georgia game, they'll stumble a little bit. But the pace that they play at, the players that they have, on defense, they got one of the underrated secondary coaches, Wesley Neighbors. He did it for us at Maryland. He's going to do it for Ole Miss down there, getting that secondary nice and tight. Now let's get to the personnel. They lost a running back, but with subtraction comes addition. Rashad Amos can't get in there. One cut downhill runner. Their leading receivers back. Their NFL quarterback is back. The offensive line is good enough. The way that they play and the pace that they play, they get plays off in 10 seconds, not from the clock, from the time they set the chain to get it moving to the next play. The pace that they play at, all they have to do is get in the way. Defensive lineman's going to be tired. Secondary's going to be confused, and they put a lot of points up on you. So that's my favorite, the best odds to win the SEC. C. Reed, what you got for me with the least favorite odds to win the SEC?
Smoke, all your friends in Tuscaloosa, Alabama, they were just texting me while you were talking about Ole Miss winning the SEC. They would like the Cadillac back that they gave you when you committed to them back in the day. They would like that back down in Tuscaloosa. Smoke, I'm gonna go. This one hurts me to do this, but I gotta go with the University of Oklahoma. I think that they're gonna
Mm.
have a really tough time. They were 10-3 a year ago in the Big 12, 7-2, but this year making the transition to the SEC, number 8 in high school recruiting, which is solid in this day and age. David Stone, the defensive tackle from IMG, is the crown jewel of that class. Only number 20 in transfer portal recruiting, and I think that now in this day and age, if you want to be a blue blood, if you want to be a premier program, you have to do damage in the transfer portal a little more than that. Now let's look at why I think that this is I don't know who did this to them, but let's look at the schedule. The strength of schedule for the University of Oklahoma. You have to you get Temple, Houston, and Tulane out the gate, but then you got Tennessee, at Auburn, South Carolina at Ole Miss. That is a tough 4 game stretch in the SEC. You get Maine, which is a no problem, but then you have to go to Missouri. Then you get Alabama and Smoke. You close out with on the road game to LSU. Man, that is just a brutal, brutal schedule. The number 7th ranked schedule in the country in terms of difficulty. I think it's awfully tough to week in and week out playing those SEC games like that with the way that schedule is stacked against Oklahoma. Now, let's talk about personnel. They lost the entire offensive line a year ago. Lot of guys gone. The best one coming back was Caden Green, who did transfer and went to the University of Missouri. They did get a couple of decent additions there in the transfer portal, but they also lost a starting quarterback. Now I know everybody's big on Sam Darnold, but I think that Dylan Gabriel does not get enough credit for how successful he's been in college. And I think anytime you lose your quarterback, it's going to hurt you. Also lost your offensive coordinator. Jeff Levy took the head job at Mississippi State Smoke. So I'm telling you right now, I think that Oklahoma has a tough schedule. I don't know if they have enough elite guys to go in this season, year in and year out. And so I think that this is going to be a tough year. They're still going to go to a bowl game, I believe, Smoke. But in terms of competing for an SEC title, I don't see it in their first year in the league.
No bueno on that. I'm 100% with you, and I get it. Jackson Arnold, young guy to come in and have to do all that. Road schedule is pretty tough. The home schedule is pretty tough. You got a couple of layups in there, but man, they got to go through that gauntlet. And it's just not the game. It's the atmosphere and the week after that you got to worry about when you're in the SEC.
Smoke, we got a special guest coming in here on the show. When you think about the history of the East St. Louis Flyers program led by Darren Sunken, I think about guys like Jeff Thomas. I think about Luther Burden, one of the top players in the nation this year. Miles McVay is from East St. Louis, down there at your alma mater, the University of Alabama. They are one of the premier programs in the nation, Smoke. They have done damage nationally. They've got great players going to the college level. We're going to have Charles Bass come in today and do his announcement, one of the latest great Flyer football prospects. We got Arkansas, we got Illinois, we got Kansas State, and we have the Missouri Tigers as the 4th finalist. Smoke. Let's welcome in Charles Bass live from East St. Louis High School. Charles, how you doing, my brother?
Doing good. What about you?
Tell us who you got with you today. Standing next to you, sitting next to you. Tell us who all you got with you today.
Got my stepmom, my dad, my uncle, cousin, and my granny.
Awesome, man. You got some beautiful people with you. Now, here's my question to you. As I see those 3 hats there, walk us through your process of narrowing down to those 3 hats.
Somewhere that I feel wanted, good relationship with the coaches was important. Somewhere I get my education, somewhere I can be developed on and off the field, and somewhere I get a chance to play.
Charles, the floor is all yours. Let us know where you're going to be playing college football at.
First, I want to thank God. None of this is possible without Him. I want to thank my dad for pushing me. I want to thank my stepmom, thank my whole family. I want to thank my teammates, holding me accountable and pushing me every day in practice. I want to thank the coaches that recruited me. That goes a long way for me. The countless hours of contact, keeping contact with me, talking to me, making sure that I'm right, checking on me. And like I said, roll the tape.
Steps up, fires deep ball. Burton behind the defender. Dagger. Goes up and over. From the sideline, leaping grab out of bounds. Mookie Cooper. Like you can tell I dropped the bag. All these years I've already been rich and I keep getting rich. I'm about to spaz. In that two-door gripping a missile. If I get busy, I gotta smash out. You know me, I crash out, get cash out. Quantity in the projects right now, giving a pass out. Got the blast out. Sliding, we taking a sad route. When we catch them clowns, they assed out. You know I won't lie. Any nigga play with me, gotta
This
die.
year, I'll be committing to the University of Missouri. I'm staying home. Lou to the zoo. Let's go. MIZ.
Charles, congratulations to you, my brother. Everybody's excited in there. Eli Drinkwitz has had a great last week in recruiting. What made you choose the Missouri Tigers over the other programs that were recruiting you?
What made me choose the Blue was he still at home. I went up there on my audition. I know a lot of players down there. Luther, Tori, Martin. Contact with them guys. I got to watch Coach Bethune. Develop some of the safety. So they're having fun and they're flying around.
Charles, how much of a role did the way that Missouri plays their corners play into you choosing them as the next school that you're going to go to?
It played an important role, with them having the success they had last year with the 2 corners they got drafted. They developed their corners and they play on a big league, and they throw their corners.
Charles, I see your dad and your uncle both in there, great high school players and coaches in St. Louis themselves. You come from a long lineage, a great football in your bloodline, your DNA, and your program. We want to thank you for coming on, man. Get out of here. Enjoy this time with your family, with your teammates, with your coaches. Congratulations to you, my brother.
See, Reed, man, what a get. Missouri's getting a versatile corner with length, position flexibility to play safety, and some nickel with the ability to flat out play off and press. Now, see, Reed, let's cut on the tape and let's get to it real quick. All right, for the first one, you're going to see he's playing off coverage, 7 yards off. Flips his hip in this transition right here, Carl. Doesn't touch him. Confident, goes up, locates the ball. It comes down with it. Now, that's what separates him. His ability to flip, go up, and get the ball. Now he's in his comfort zone, press. Patient, hands-on. Again, no panic because you don't see him put his hands on him. Transition, runs with him. Now, here's where that 6'1" length comes in. Goes up, arms up, makes the quarterback have to throw and put arc on it. It causes an interception. That's the difference in when you have a tall corner with size, length, and the ability to make quarterbacks make perfect pocket throws and fit balls into small windows. You're going to contribute to turnovers with tips and overthrows, but you see his ability to come down with the ball. Now, like I said, see Reed, tall corner that can play off. That's the most difficult thing for corners, but he makes it look easy. Press coverage, hands-on, and gets it done. And position flexibility. You can play him at safety. You can play him at a nickel or star position and get it done. Now, I just told you what he is on film. How do you see him fitting with Missouri on defense?
One thing about Coach Drinkwitz at Mizzou, and he talks to me about this a lot when we talk about recruiting, you need some long corners that can run because of the bigger receivers in the SEC, especially guys that can affect you in the red zone. This is a guy with a tremendous amount of length. He has great hip turnover. Like you said, he can play press man and give good one arm jams, or he can play off. He even in the 4-2-5 that they run can do a lot of stuff and playing nickel and slot corner, so the versatility is there. He reminds me a lot of when they had Ennis Rakestraw, who just got drafted to the Detroit Lions. He's well schooled, he's well coached. Both his dad and his uncle were Division I football players, great high school coaches in the St. Louis area. He's been schooled by Darren Sunkett, one of the legendary high school coaches, who's a great DB guy himself, and his defensive coordinator and corners coach, Brandon Gregory, has developed tons of corners who have come out the St. Louis area and made impacts in college. He has an opportunity, Smoke, to be the next great player out of East St. Louis High School. Smoke, it's time for us to throw our flags on things that don't sit right with us. Who are you throwing a flag on today in our flag on the play segment?
I am launching this flag on the NCAA for waiting so long to make marijuana not a banned substance, not get tested anymore. But now, it took long enough, but again, like typical NCAA, there's no rules and there was no guidelines and no regulations to when, where, why, and how. Yeah. When you give young people the opportunity to use something, they usually take it to abuse. There are health benefits for marijuana, but there's also things that can go wrong when you abuse anything. Like I said, I like the ruling, but what we haven't put into place is there are 17, they might be 16 or 18-year-old that comes into college. Most of them smoke at home with their parent. A lot of them never tried smoking weed. And when you get to college and it becomes now peer pressure and you now abuse something because you don't know the reaction that it does to your body, now you can get some young people that's going to get themselves in a lot of trouble. Marijuana still has the same effect as alcohol when you're impaired. Impaired vision and impaired driving is still the same. Flag on the NCAA, taking so long, but also flag again for not having any rules, regulation, and understanding and giving these coaches and universities the opportunity to take full advantage of what, where, and why, and having protocols within their program for marijuana. Flag on the NCAA. What you got for me, Steve Reed?
Smoke, I'm going to throw a flag on the players on this. The only thing I want to tell you young guys right now is conduct yourself, what Smoke? Conduct yourself accordingly. Now, I've played with a couple of guys who could smoke weed and go out and drink all night and roll out of bed and run a 4.40. And by a couple, I mean two. One in high school and one in college. The majority of you guys that are going to be smoking weed every day, you can't handle it. Your body can't handle it, and you can't handle it. You are going to college to get an education and to play elite football. And because they passed a rule that says you can get high every day and nobody will test you, doesn't mean that you should do it. And at some point, when you're not playing football and you have to integrate yourself into society and go in and work every day, nobody wants to sit next to a guy at work that smells like weed all the time, that lips are turning a different color, and his fingernails are yellow. Conduct yourself accordingly, man, and make sure you make good decisions, because just because somebody said you can do something doesn't mean that you should.
See, Reed, you ain't have to take it that far with lips turning color, fingernails gone, zooted eyes. But good job, though. Good job. You hit it on the head. Use and abuse.
There you go. Smoke. That's going to wrap it up for us today. Join us every Wednesday and Friday at 5 p.m. Eastern on the 24/7 Sports YouTube channel. Congrats to Charles Bass. You have just been unfiltered.